Hey, good morning. I'm Zeki Hamid. It's Wednesday, and this is Seattle Now. If you've noticed more traffic in and around Seattle over the past couple of weeks, well, that's not an accident. The Washington State Department of Transportation wants to revive I-5, and that means 2 full years of lane closures and extra congestion around the city. We'll hear more from UW traffic engineering professor Yinhai Wang in a minute. But first, let's get you caught up. The rising price of food is on the agenda today for Governor Bob Ferguson and other elected leaders. They're holding a discussion on corporate consolidation. They say that's contributing to higher prices for consumers in Washington state. The governor will be joined by Seattle Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, as well as farmers and independent grocers. The hearing begins at 6 tonight at Seattle City Hall. Registration is required to attend in person, and the event will be live-streamed as well. State lawmakers are taking up some key housing bills this morning. One proposal would require cities to allow transitional and permanent supportive housing in the same places that other housing is allowed. Also, lawmakers will hear public testimony on a bill that would require landlords to disclose flooding history and known flood risks to tenants. That begins at 10:30 this morning, streaming live on TVW. And Seattle's getting a new all-ages music venue next year. The nonprofit Vera Project is opening the new space in Georgetown at an old warehouse near Boeing Field. They hope the venue will allow up to 300 people, and a percentage of the tickets will be pay what you can. Vera Project leaders say the Georgetown location will be more accessible to a growing number of youth who live in South Seattle and South King County. The nonprofit is launching a $2.5 million fundraising effort to get the venue up and running. Check back for more headlines on tonight's episode of Seattle Now. When the Ship Canal Bridge was opened in 1962, it was a key part of Washington state's infrastructure. We've broken it in a bit since then.
In about the last 6 years, we've had to do more than 200 emergency repairs out there for potholes and things. If that happens during peak travel, we've got to go out and close lanes in peak travel, in peak direction.
Tom Pierce is from the Washington State Department of Transportation, and he says it's time for the Ship Canal Bridge to get an upgrade. For the entire year, with a short break for the Men's World Cup, 2 northbound lanes on I-5 are closed before the work switches directions in 2027. WashDOT knows it will be harder for people to get around, and early results are showing bumper-to-bumper traffic. In early January, WashDOT says the average morning commute from Linwood to Seattle took 81 minutes. The Seattle Times reported this week that some people's commutes more than doubled, like one commuter that was stuck in traffic for 2 hours trying to get from Lake Forest Park to Queen Anne. WashDOT traffic engineer Mike Swires says the state is seeing some positive movement.
We've only been at it now for 2 weeks. We're seeing numbers move in the right direction, and we're seeing some improvements out there. But it's going to take several weeks for that to continue to shake out.
Yinhai Wang is the head of the Washington State Transportation Center, or TRAC. He's also a UW transportation engineering professor, and he's here to tell us how this project will impact traffic in our region. Thank you so much for being here, Yinhai.
It's my pleasure joining you guys.
So this project kicked off earlier this month, so we have some kind of idea of the immediate impacts, but what has stuck out to you so far?
You know, I live in the east side of the lake, so I commute over through 520 Bridge. So the impact to me is visible, but not that significant. So my estimation will be this project will be affecting the southbound travelers of I-5 more significantly than the northbound, because the reversible lane will be opening 24 hours a day toward the north direction. But with this reversible lane now permanently open to the north, I think the southbound travelers will be seeing the bigger impact, at least in the beginning of the stage of the project.
Right. Every time in the morning when I do look on I-5 going south, it just looks like a parking lot. I mean, and it's sometimes you don't realize the effect and the impact of the express lanes in the morning, and you take that away. How impactful is this specific stretch of I-5 in terms of traffic around the city and state, not just on I-5?
Yeah, I think a traffic problem is normally a regional problem. You won't see, for example, a broken lane on a particular segment of the road will be only affecting this particular segment. It will be spill out, affecting the whole network. So this bigger project, closing 2 northbound lanes on the Ship Canal Bridge is certainly going to generate the regional impact. You see people seek for new routes, to get to their destination. There will be, I think, the beginning stage route searching phase. When people find their favorable routes to use, I think you will see the traffic start to come down.
Oh, okay.
And, the impact will gradually get to a certain level. Now you will see this is unstable traffic congestions here and there.
So this is a really busy section, the Ship Canal Bridge of I-5. Do you know how many people were riding on the Ship Canal Bridge every day before the closure started?
The total traffic using the Ship Canal Bridge is 240,000 vehicles a day.
Wow.
But that's for both directions.
Okay.
Now, if you look at only northbound, let's say that's half of that, but that's still a big number, right?
What's the precedence for such a big overhaul like this? I mean, how often does Seattle have this large of a traffic project happening for such a long amount of time?
At least since I joined the University of Washington in 1998, this is the biggest project, I have ever seen. A comparable size, but smaller, will be the Alaska Conway Viaduct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that one, is like the arterial, right? Now we are talking about this major south-north corridor, I-5. And certainly this I-5 section carries more traffic than the Alaska Conway Viaduct.
So when transportation engineers are planning for huge closures like this, what do you think some of the things that they're thinking about?
Normally we have to consider before the project, during the project, and after the project, right? So there will be strategic considerations about how do we manage the traffic around this project. This also happens when we have a major sports event, for example, the Seahawks game, right? How do we deal with the traffic? But the major difference between this particular I-5 Revive project with those, special event management project is this one lasts a lot longer, right? So it's like several years for effort rather than you just deal with the traffic in several hours.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there are different levels of strategies, right? So certainly from the traffic management perspective, we have to consider, what kind of sign we need to put out to direct traffic, and also how do we make people aware of this so they can be prepared. At the same time, the travelers will also need to consider, during this construction period, that's going to last for several years, what I am going to do, try to minimize my travel delay, right? So I think you will see people changing the route, changing the transportation mode.
Right. And I do want to get into that. But before we do, because you mentioned big events, so the construction is going to take a brief break for one of the biggest events that we're going to have here, which is the World Cup, the Men's World Cup. Why is this big project happening now? I mean, I'm wondering about the reasoning of the timing. Why not just start after the World Cup is over?
Certainly when you have a problem, right, and you also see the resources to fix the problem, you want to get this started sooner than later. So is there a perfect time? Probably not, right? Even we avoid this World Cup, you may see other important event coming up. And plus, the later we fix the project, the longer we suffer from the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, we've had some closures also related to I-5 construction in recent months before this big project, but they were quicker weekend closures. What's the difference when we have an impact that's going to last for multiple years rather than this, short amount of time?
Well, when you have a project only going to last a short amount of time, people will also consider dealing with this particular problem using a shorter-term solution. Yeah, if this is going to be lasting for multiple years, they would consider, how do I adapt to this, at least during the project time, several years, and then we will decide what to do after the project's done. So I guess this will be causing more permanent changes, for people's mode choice and the travel time, like when do they leave for work, right? So this kind of departure time, arrival time. Maybe some of the employers will also open for flexible schedule. I think all these things will be possible, and I think also necessary for us to deal with this particular closure, for the coming couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Because when you do such a big project on one arterial, so I-5, that's going to become a parking lot going south, for example. What other roads are going to get clogged or are being clogged right now?
Yeah, let's say we have more demand than the supply for the roadway capacity, right? Let's say, and people want to go bypass this congestion spot, right? Exactly how they're going to do that, people may consider finding a local street routes. So they could go bypass that congestion spot, or they could consider maybe using a combination of different transportation modes, like I can drive at a particular location, take a bus. Yeah, so I think all these things are possible. And when you see a major roadway closed for whatever reason, you'll be seeing this impact goes to parallel streets and even the streets connecting these parallel streets. So I think once people find an ideal route or they find an ideal way of dealing with this commuting challenge, they will adapt to this new pattern, right? Once we see that, you'll see the traffic start to come down.
Okay. So you think it will get better with time as people settle into a new routine?
Yeah. At least, when people are searching for the optimal route, they do not know which one works better, right? They try this one, try that one. Later, they found this one is relatively better, and then they will adapt to that particular route.
Okay, that would be good. So especially so people who live in Linwood don't have to wait 81 minutes to get to Seattle, which is, I think, what WashDOT is reporting right now, the travel time there.
Yeah.
So traffic is usually a very major inconvenience, something that upsets a lot of people. You said that there's never really a perfect time to start a project like this, but how much of a challenge is it to get people to understand the need for shutdown and delays?
There are certainly a lot of challenges, just like, I'm teaching transportation engineering course at UW. Everybody, they consider they know something about transportation, including my parents, right? So even they never studied transportation. I think this is a topic everybody would care and everybody would comment. But certainly behind these phenomena, there are also theories behind them, right? This may not be everybody would understand. So certainly when we communicate, we need to use the language everybody could understand, right? And also use some examples will be very helpful for people to understand why we need to do this. What's the impact going to be? So there are a lot of rooms for us to, do a better communication to the general public.
Yeah. See, I live in Shoreline, and I usually take light rail to work, but I used to take, once or twice a week, just going and drive, going south. But now, ever since this started, I have not driven once. I just didn't want to deal with that. Me and traffic are not a good combination. So do you think there's going to be more people like me who are just going to cut their losses, avoid driving altogether? Is public transportation going to increase, do you think?
I think you made the right decision. And I have to comment, this is a smart decision. Actually, I would encourage the general public when considering the new commuting method, look broadly than just driving and find a good route. So a combination of model may be another way to deal with this challenge. So I would say from the public transportation's perspective, in our region, there's still room to improve. For example, the light rail, right? We could add some capacity or increase the frequency, try to serve the surge of the demand maybe during the project period. I think that will be very helpful for people, to use the public transportation with reliable travel time. At the same time, when more people come to use the public transportation, there will be fewer cars, being congested, in the street or like our opening freeways. So that will be helpful both sides, right? Helpful for the public transportation operators and the travelers, and also helpful for the vehicle drivers to commute. So I think that would be a win-win situation.
So that's a really great recommendation. If our listeners are curious for a solution other than that, what would you tell them aside from just be patient?
I would say there are multiple ways of dealing with this challenge. One, as I said, you may consider switching the transportation mode from car mode to transit or light rail. Another way will be from driving alone to carpool, right? Adding one more way will be like looking at flexible working schedule. Let's say maybe I prefer going to work at 8 a.m., but that may be the most congested time period. Instead of going at 8, maybe I can choose to go at 10, but coming back at 7 p.m., right? So shifting the departure and arrival time would avoid, the peak hour traffic.
Those are some really great recommendations. I'm going to add one more to the listeners.
Okay.
Listen to KUOW. It'll keep you entertained while you're stuck in that traffic. Yinhai Wang is a transportation engineering professor at the University of Washington and the director of Washington State Transportation Center. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thanks to our generous donors for the support you give the show. You can give Seattle Now a boost by clicking the link in the show notes and following, rating, and reviewing the show on your podcast app. Today's episode was produced by Vaughn Jones. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Andy Hurst, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, Paige Browning, and Patricia Murphy. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Zeki Hamid. Be kind to each other and see you tonight for Evening Headlines.